the studio of your mom's basement comes a podcast by two idiots in a revolving door of legends and has-beens from the oldest university in Texas. This is Purple, Gold, and Getting Old.
Gotcha. Cool.
Howard Payne. Dude.
Howard Payne. We barely
Howard
got through,
Payne.
but you know what? We did, and we won a conference championship. You know who else won a conference championship this weekend? Men's soccer and women's soccer for the first time ever. Huge weekend for Crew Sports, wrapping up 3 ASC titles all in the same weekend.
I'm not a huge soccer guy. I will watch a free Dynamo game on Twitter when it's live streaming, but I will say it got personal when we were in school over Hardin-Simmons soccer. So I'm very glad that they've overcome all that finally.
Well, and the thing, if you haven't been paying, maybe you don't even know this, HSU women's soccer has been as dominant, if not more, than UMHB football.
Yeah. What was it, 30 years or something?
For like 25 years in a row.
Yeah.
One national championship compared to 3. But it was a massive deal for HSU not to win it and for UMHB to be the first people to beat them.
Which is outstanding.
Decades. Yeah, just really cool. And then even on the men's side, this is only a ASC title. And you know what? I feel really great about it because first-year head coach Ben Allen, class of 2012, just like me, makes you maybe feel a little bit old to know the coaches now are people we went to school with.
I know.
But congrats to Ben Allen on that title. So that was really cool.
I almost had a terrible sports day Saturday. It was I knew A&M was going to lose. That wasn't even like, even though we were playing Florida and people were like, Florida sucks. I'm like, well, what do you think A&M does? Like, we are not good. So I wasn't too disappointed, but I went to go watch Tech at TCU. And I got to see 2 guys from high school that I haven't seen in 15 years. Shout out Jimmy and Greg. It was a fun time with them. Then I saw some of my Tech colleagues that I had worked with. So I got to see them. And I had breakfast with Jeff Payne, so shout out Crew. And on my way to breakfast in Fort Worth, I passed 2 Crew cars with different year stickers. I don't even think they were together. It just happened to be on I-35. And, you know, we're always talking about how when you throw the C, there's only a certain window of time where alumni will throw it back. These were current students, and I threw my C out the window. They rolled down their window, got right back out, and did it back at me on 35. So shout out to whoever that was in the
There's
SUV.
There's nothing worse than throwing at, like seeing somebody like, oh, they're my tribe, I'm going to do my thing. And then them look at you like, who is this idiot? I've been at the zoo. I've they look at me crazy. I've seen people
I'm drinking.
Yeah.
Dude,
I've seen
but
people
what's funny to me is Hardin-Simmons fans.
Verde too. They ignored me. So it's great when they, whatever you're doing, they throw it back.
Well, I love throwing up the seat of Hardin-Simmons fans because they know and they get mad about it. But I will say, and I knew Tech was going to lose to TCU, but it was still fun to cross the stadium off my bucket list, which I will say real quick, TCU, beautiful campus, horrible parking, horrible traffic. Despite all the drama online, the fan bases were pretty friendly to each other, at the tailgates and going in. They booed louder than any stadium I've ever been in. That was a surprise because there wasn't much noise until Tech ran in, and the boo was just loud. The stadium itself was one of the coolest ones I've ever been in. Like, I recommend a TCU game just to say you've been. But what made the day and saved it for me was coming home and Astros won the World Series. So it wasn't a total dive on my sports teams that day.
There you go. Well, if we're doing D1 talk, we lost to Georgia, my Vols. But you know what? I'm not mad because we already have 8 wins, and we haven't had more than 8 wins in a regular season since I was like 17.
I was about to ask. Our D1 teams are doing the opposite. A&M has not had a losing streak this bad since my dad was a sophomore there. So I texted him. I'm like, welcome back to school. It's funny, though. I actually had Tennessee picked to win that, so I'll admit when I'm wrong. You were right. One thing I want to do what?
I picked them to lose every game.
I know. Our UMHB's next game is against McDurdy, and I may just have to post the Letterkenny clip this week, but we have thoughts about McMurray, and now those thoughts are echoed because they are leaving the conference again. Because being punished once wasn't bad enough, I guess, and they're taking quite a few people with them. So I kind of want to take a minute just to say, like, I think I've always said this, but now it's more than just my wishes and my selfishness. I think it's time the school needs to look at a move. And
I agree.
Part of that is too, like, once upon a time, the Stag Bowl was the golden goal. You know, it's like, man, how cool it would feel to just win a Stag Bowl. We've got 3, and I'm not trying to devalue that, but at the same time, it's kind of like now we're in the situation where it's like, if you don't win the ultimate title, the whole season's kind of a bust, and nobody pays attention up into that point. It's like people kind of hone in about 2 or 3 weeks left of the season. And that's for those that pay attention. I'm not talking about you losers out there that pretend you went to Baylor. I'm talking about those of us who are dedicated. And to me, I'm like, I think I'm to the point where I would have more fun watching us be like mid to upper level Southland FCS, pull a St. Thomas, end up ranked in FCS.
Dude, they're doing good. And that's, I think, like, we're reverse St. Thomas. St. Thomas get kicked out of their conference because they were too good. Everybody's just leaving our conference.
Right.
And so, but like, going to leave us in the same situation. So, like, dude, I have no doubt that within a couple of years we could be competing with, like, you know, the crappier schools.
And people say, well, what about scholarships? I'm like, bro, we're spending over $1 million on a 3-hole golf course. I'm pretty sure we can make the scholarships work.
Are we sure? That's a great topical, trendy topic right now. I've noticed, you know, the UMHB memes page, which is a great to go to find the pulse of the current students. They're really not happy about it. Sure, like, this wasn't put in just because he wants a place to go golf for free every day. Like,
naturally, okay,
sure, that's not what.
Like, honestly, no matter what a school does, there will always be people that say it's admins being greedy or whatever. Like, I don't know. I've heard that about the patio behind the president's
also,
house,
do we know?
But...
Are we sure it's not Randy's just wanting a place to go golf?
Randy, you can come on the podcast. We'll talk golf.
Please do. Yeah, I'll take it. Just said back. Yeah.
You can be the 1845th episode when we get that.
I'm a fan. And if we want, we can even have bring on some of the football guys that we had on that had an interesting meeting.
Had dinner at his house.
Yeah.
I don't know the whole story on the golf thing. It's, you know, Randy Man retires and then they put a golf course in. It's kind of like, what are we doing? Yeah.
Where is it going to be?
Over the Streaker Field and the Peacock House.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. Got it.
But all that to say, yeah, that's like that whole area. They're gonna,
okay, I know exactly. Yeah, for sure.
All that to say, we could afford to go FCS. When I worked at HBU, now known as HCU, we got paid a hefty penny just to be on the little ESPN ticker at the bottom, getting beat by 60 by Michigan State in basketball. So, you know, the only thing, and I mean the only thing at all that I would not like about going FCS is it opens up the possibility for UMHB to have to play A&M or Baylor as their like home opener. My heart's not ready for that. So I would be all for FCS, but I think it would be smart for us to say, hey, we're going to go and we're going to take Hardin Simmons with us. 2 reasons. One, I just hate when realignment kills rivalries, but more importantly, it's an auto dub. Think about it. If you're going to take the risk of not being dominant in a higher league, you take somebody with you that you're used to beating every year and you can keep making fun of them.
I don't mind the thought, but HSU is struggling to keep its doors open right now as it is.
Right.
They could not no.
The alternative, though, is they stay behind and beat up on the 4 teams that are left and then act like they're all hot on T3 stuff.
Well, that's fine. We could still make fun of them.
Yeah. Anyway. Well,
hey, why don't you introduce the guests we've got today?
Let's do it. I'll just cut right into it. Today we've
had some interviews like this on the podcast before, so I won't say names.
No, today won't be that way. We've got Ricky Brenek with us, and Ricky, I want to say class of 2011. Am I getting that right? All right, because you literally told me like a month ago, and I was like, I was pretty sure you were a year behind me. But Ricky, he actually lives not too far from me. Played baseball at UMHB, and I don't know why I am doing the intro. Ricky, I'm going to let you introduce yourself and kind of just take the listeners, what brought you to UMHB, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I think you were doing a wonderful job, by the way, Garrett. You probably know me better than I know myself, but
Oh,
I'm creepy like that.
yeah, no, that did sound kind of creepy, but Tyler, great to be on here and great to see you as well too. But yeah, so came to UMHB. It was kind of an interesting story. So I grew up and went to school in Rogers, which is a small town just east of Temple. I'm sure most people that went to UMHB know of it because a lot of people are from Houston, and you go right through it, and it's known to be the speed trap capital of the world. Have a big sign and everything for it. But yeah, so I played sports, was an avid sports player throughout high school. The great thing about a small school is I got to play basketball, football, baseball, but we were pretty good at baseball all throughout my high school career. And I was actually planning on going to A&M. Didn't really know the next steps. I was salutatorian of my class, and so I was like, well, I can basically go to any public school in the state of Texas and get admitted. So I applied to like all of them, and just A&M fit me best, being small town Texas, rural agricultural background. I was like, well, that's where I'm going. That's where a lot of my friends are going. And I looked up my senior year. We actually won state in baseball. And I actually, at the end of the year, I was looking at the stat sheet or towards the end of the year, I looked at the stat sheet and I was leading our team in batting average. And I knew about 4 of our other guys because we had 13 seniors on the team, which was ridiculous, especially for a small 2A school. And about 4 other guys were going on to play college baseball. And I said, man, could I go play at the next level? And so that's not a great time to be deciding you want to try to go play at the next level. But my brother was playing football at UMHB already. He made a phone call to the football secretary, who then called, who was the coach at the time, Coach Michael Wells. Got a quick visit in. Couldn't really have a whole lot of other options. And so I said, yeah, let's give this a shot. Sounds like a great school. My brother had been going there for 2 years. So was very, very fortunate, though. Wouldn't have changed anything about that story. Was happy to spend all 4 years. I could have went somewhere else after a few years, but really enjoyed my time there, and made me part of who I am today. So
awesome.
That's the long story.
Well, it's actually, you made that pretty quick. We usually kick off too by telling how we met our guests, and this will be fun because I didn't even ask Tyler way back when it was about 2 months ago or a month ago, whenever we were like, hey, let's do the podcast. I didn't even ask Tyler if he knew you. I was like, hey, I got us an interview. For me, it was, I met you through a couple of my welcome week girls. And I think we all went dancing a couple times and just kind of hung out on and off. And but Tyler, I don't even know if y'all have met. Is this the first intro?
This was total surprise when I heard the name. I was like, I don't recognize it, but we've done a lot of people that graduated like right before I got there or right around the time I did get there. So I just assumed that. Then I heard your class of 2011. You're only a year ahead of me, so no, we don't know each other at all. But I didn't know any baseball players, so
except Kane and Nathan, who we stole from the baseball team.
But they didn't stick with it. You did, though, I assume. So did you came in with Nathan and Kane then?
Oh, yes. Nathan was in my class.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he told me. Okay.
Wait. Okay. Yeah, and Kane, I think, was a year behind me.
No.
He was in your class. Yeah.
No, he would have been.
Yeah, he came in with me. Yeah. Because we played the same position. So
it's hard to remember because a lot of people quit baseball when they get there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, a lot of people just quit the sport, whatever sport they're doing.
That's true.
That's true. I mean, shoot, dude. Like I was on the UMHB's wakeboard team, which we actually had one, and we quit that, and that's not even NCAA sports. So
didn't that quit itself? Like, didn't it last
No,
like a
that
week?
quit itself because the guy who had the boat failed out of UMHB, and so that was that.
Wait, was this individual from Belton and
Yes.
like all the
Yeah,
ladies loved him? Okay, I know who you're talking about.
yes.
All right.
Yeah.
For what it's worth, I was on the UMHB lacrosse team for like a week. So I guess we all have that one involvement. But
Yeah.
Ricky, while you were in school, other than baseball, what are some things you were involved with? And what were some of the things that you like to be a part of at UMHB?
Oh man, that's a good question. I feel like I wasn't um super involved in anything in particular other than baseball. I mean, um I had an interesting major minor tag team because my major was a BBA and my minor was a BS. So um I actually graduated with about 100 and it was between 140 and 150 hours.
Wow.
So I just had to get that to be able to have that major and minor combo. So but
And what were those majors? What are those acronyms?
bachelor's of business administration and then a bachelor of science.
Gotcha.
So I was bachelor's of business was my major with focus in economics and finance, and then my minor was mathematics. So I went through the whole college kind of torn of what I wanted to do, which we'll get into
Yeah.
later on. But I wanted to I loved business, and I always loved that idea. I just didn't know like what avenue I would go down. So I did the mathematics to be able to fall back on as a teacher, if possible. But yeah, man, the things in UMHB, the baseball team kind of just was a close knit group. We did a lot of stuff together. Fun fact about spring break while Garrett's leading the tribe down on South Padre Island.
Uh-oh.
We were playing tennis golf around campus because there was nobody on campus. And so like we were just like running through the dorms, and then we would go and pick about a 9-hole course, make it up as we go around UMHB campus, through the quad, in front of chapel, down around Van Circle, and then circle back around the pond. So that was fun, but I didn't do any of the Crusader nights or anything like that, because I did also live close to home. So my job, I didn't have to work through UMHB, but I did come home. I grew up on a family farm. And so I came home and worked on the farm a lot. So just to help pay my way through UMHB for those 4 years. So yeah, I guess to answer your question, I didn't do a lot of other stuff. And I'm sure I did. I'm just not recalling anything in specific that I was just diehard with.
It's interesting, the campus golf thing. I feel like my freshman year was really big. It was like the guys who were juniors and seniors in 06, you couldn't go to class without seeing somebody doing that. And I got invited several times. I'm like, no, I got class, all this stuff. And like when I was a first semester freshman, in the back of my mind, I was like, are we gonna get in trouble? So it's funny, when I was living in Houston years later, a friend of mine I was doing grad school with, he called me up and he's like, hey, we're going over to Rice to play campus golf. I'm like, yeah, let's go. So I went and played on their campus. We're like hitting tennis balls at like clock towers and big structures and stuff. I was like, oh, they can't kick me out of this school. But that's, it's actually a perfect segue into a question we ask everybody also, is what's something you wish you could have been a part of?
Yeah. So as far as what I wish I could have been a part of, I wish probably I would have been more involved with Welcome Week. Like I didn't even do Welcome Week as a freshman just because of the crazy story of coming into UMHB. Like I was still trying to apply and sign up for classes whenever Welcome Week was happening. But that looked like a really fun time, and knowing what I know now about UMHB, and just being able to give back to the kids, to the people, their classmen. I'm thinking now in my terms, like I feel like high schoolers going into college are kids, but
Oh yeah.
but yeah, just to give back to them, their classmen, and tell them how great the school is, and all the different things that they can be involved in, and to get involved. Like that's one thing I don't want to say it's a regret, but I wish I would have been more involved, stayed around more on the weekends, instead of just going dancing every once in a while with you and your friends, Garrett. But yeah, that's probably one area that I wish I would have been um, more involved in.
Yeah, I was kind of like you. I really hyper focused in on like one or two things, and that was just it. But welcome week is one thing I did, I guess twice as a freshman coming in, and then I was an uncle. I think, yeah, I was an uncle one year, and that's just one of my favorite weeks on campus. But it's the welcome week is like it's college without the class is the way I've always described it. So yeah, it's amazing.
I have to say how old we felt talking about them as the children or the kids or whatever. We had the current Couch Crew guys on a few weeks ago, and I'm in a group chat with them that basically it's only been used to schedule these episodes, and then I think a couple times about a couple football games or if they needed help with something. But on that episode, they're talking about the welcoming moms and dads. It was like a foreign concept to them. We're like, they did what? And one of them made a joke about, yeah, everybody loves mommies or whatever. And I was like, whatever. Every once in a while, my phone will light up just with no context. And there's just like the word mommies from one of those guys. I'm like, why?
What's the background behind that?
I'm still trying to figure it out.
That Gen Z humor, man. They just the less it makes sense, the funnier it is.
Yep. We were
Although,
kind of that
I'll
way.
say Gen Z, they like to talk about how they invented random humor, but like,
No.
if I could bring them back to some 2008 YouTube videos, they did not.
Hey, we are the old Greg generation, all right.
Yeah.
And I'm on a boat was the Top Club song my junior year, so just throwing that out there. But you went to UMHB, you played baseball, and before I get into what you're doing now, I do want to ask. We always ask everybody what their favorite sports memory was, and usually, if somebody played a sport, it has to do with that. I kind of want to split the question up, like favorite sports memory that you had as a baseball player, but also favorite sports memory not related to baseball.
Oh man, you threw me a curveball there.
Yeah, baseball humor.
Yeah, no pun intended. By the way, how about the Astros?
I know my brain just went there. I wasn't going to say it, but my brain immediate. So happy.
Oh man, yeah, that was great to see them win it. So
I swear if a cheating scandal comes up, I'm done. Like we got it fair and square. We can lose every game next year. I just want to enjoy this one.
Yeah. No, I don't think that's going to happen this time. I'd be really surprised if it does. But so look, I'll start off with the baseball one. So we went and played in Alpine at Sul Ross University. Went out there, made that trek twice at my career because everybody on our side of the conference, you would always flip flop where you would play them home or away. So
for listeners who don't know, that is 28 hours away. It seems like
it's pretty much that away. And I remember Joseph Villegas down 2 tall boy monster drinks as we are getting on the bus to leave Alpine. I think it was his senior year. And he sat there and watched his dot on his phone maps the whole way home because he was not going to sleep. Anyway, interesting side note there. That is not my story about Alpine. So
I do want to say, though, he was my welcome week host when I was a previous student. I still went to UMHB.
Oh, man. Hey, Joseph was a great guy.
Yeah, I got along with him great.
Got to spend he was, great guy. So went to Alpine. Hotel we were staying in was right next to this they called it a park, but the name of it was Jackastic Park, and basically it was a donkey park. And so, like, I kid you not, this was literally walking distance from our hotel. And so we play Friday game and then a doubleheader on Saturday. And I think we went out there on Thursday. That's what it was. It was a long drive. So we went out there on Thursday. And so that way we don't have to drive 28 hours and then get off a bus and try to play a game. And so we went out there on Thursday, and I think Thursday evening or early Friday morning, a bunch of guys woke up and went over to this jackastic park. And I'm just going to try to say it as many times as I can.
It's amazing. We're not even bleeping it on this episode. It's it's a
man.
literal donkey term.
Yeah, it is. And so they went over there, bought a bunch of t-shirts and stuff like that. And I'm just like, gosh, what are we doing? Like, this is only in Alpine, like only in Alpine. So, and the interesting thing about their, have y'all ever been to Alpine? I know y'all went on a lot of road trips. Have y'all seen their baseball field, or what used to be their baseball field?
Driven past it once.
I've actually been there, but in no relation to UMHB.
Yeah, I was about to say, I think we went. I've been to every school in the conference, at least at the time, except Louisiana College and Sul Ross. But I've driven past Sul Ross, just not for a game.
Yeah. So their park, or what used to be their park when we played, I think they got a new one, but I'm not sure, was like an old minor league park. We called it the Alamo because it literally just had a tall cement wall on the outside. And the bathrooms were like underneath in tunnels. Like you just had this, it was wide enough barely for your shoulders. You almost had to turn sideways to walk into the bathrooms and stuff. It was crazy. Interesting time. So yeah, that same year I think one of the lights around home plate went out during our Friday night game, and the umpire was like, no, it's too dark, we can't resume play, we got to wait for it to come back on. So both teams are just, kind of like the rainouts, we're throwing the ball back and forth and being baseball players, playing tic-tac-toe on baseballs and stuff like that. And anyway, they put on Sweet Caroline, and our team got out in front of the dugout and just started singing it at the top of our lungs. And they turned it off halfway through. They're like, they're getting too fired up. Like we gotta cut this out. So
was the other team in on it with y'all, or was it just they were watching y'all sing it?
No, they were just watching us. They're like, what are they doing? And we're like, just yelling "bom bom bom" at the top of our lungs. It was nuts.
My favorite college story of all time involves Sweet Caroline, but it'll never make the podcast. Shout out Nate Outland. But so I've got a question for you. You talked about one of the things that you did was going out two-stepping with Garrett from time to time.
Let's clarify. There were girls with us. He did not go two-stepping with me.
So it just occurred to me that like that could probably be an episode all by itself. So where
dance halls? He froze.
Oh man.
At least it wouldn't. Usually it's my internet that freezes. But
yeah.
Oh well, he'll jump back in. So y'all sing Sweet? Was there any more to the Sweet Caroline aftermath? Like,
no, they turned it off halfway. I don't remember if we won that game. We won 2 out of 3 that year out there, but I don't remember if we won that game or not. I think we did. I think we won Friday night.
Yeah, I remember like of all the campuses in that conference, like there were some nice ones, but I think if I had to go to school at another ASC school that wasn't UMHB, it probably would have been Tyler just texted me, goes, y'all are completely frozen. No, dude, you are. I think it probably would have been Sul Ross just because it was like the mountains and everything were cool, except you're not near anything.
Yeah. That's way out there.
Yeah.
And there's nothing along the drive. Like,
no.
I took 2 trips there, took 2 trips to Mississippi College, which is took 1 trip to Louisiana College. So at least going there, you got to see trees and different views. But Alpine, it was just like flat land and brush.
Yeah, like Van Horn's like the biggest town you pass through, and it's tiny. Because I went on a mission trip to Arizona my freshman year, And I remember Andrew Freeman and Jeremy Key went into the Love's truck stop because like every town out there has a Love's for some reason, and bought like a $60 battle axe for no reason. They were like, they have the coolest weaponry in the store. And years later, I was roommates with Freeman for a brief period of time. And when he moved out, he messaged me and said, "Hey, I left you something in the back room." And I go and I look, and in my room, there's this giant battle axe, and I still have it at my house. But yeah, the other way, I went to Mississippi College twice as a student. And I just remember, and this would be a whole other episode, but Tyler can remember, you're talking about the trees. Andy Archibald was driving us out there. It was Tyler, me, Andy, and Seth Prohaska. And I remember Andy put on some song, and it was 1 hour long. It was some remix that combined a bunch of different songs. And after about 10 minutes, Seth's like, "Does this thing ever end?" It's like, "No, dude, it's an hour long." And we got through the whole thing. But Tyler, when you froze, you were saying something about something that could be a whole episode of its own. I think you were hinting at dance halls.
Yeah. So I was going to ask you, I was wondering, like, I came back in, I'm like, oh, they get whatever. And then I heard Mississippi. I'm like, well, I don't think you were dancing in Mississippi.
No, we weren't.
So my question was, where was your big spots to go dance?
I guess that's directed at me. Yeah, so Wild West and Waco was the big one, I think.
Rest in peace.
Bo's Barn was still in Salado.
Yeah.
It was more of a bar.
I didn't know it was ever in Salado.
Yeah,
That's
for decades.
Interesting. I never went there. Okay. When it was
Yeah.
in Salado.
It moved. So the one where it is now was called the Ranch. And then the one in Salado, they were expanding I-35 and they had to take the building out.
Gotcha.
No.
Did you ever go to the Cotton Club down in Granger?
Yep.
Okay.
I've been there quite a bit, actually.
The one I remember, and this is one we probably can't ever have an episode about. Did you ever go to Junction 45 down in Cleveland?
Yeah. That one, and there's what was the country one? Wild West was in Waco.
Wild Country. There's a Wild Country. Yeah.
There you go. I went to that one a few times just for concerts. Like Aaron Watson would play there. Kyle Park, I think, played there one time. So, but I try to stay out of clean.
Yeah. You know, Wild Country or whatever, the Junction 45, that was so huge, it seemed like, for a while. Yeah. And I never ended up going there. I tried to go one time. I loaded up my excursion full of like 9 people, and we were all going out there. And then somebody texted and said it was closed. No, we're going up to the Wild West in Waco. And so I'm like, all right, we're going up there. And it started storming and raining down 35. And somewhere around Troy, I hit a pothole or something, and I did a 20 in my excursion going down I-35 at like 60 miles an hour. And I had a girl in the excursion that we had started to talk, as we called it at the time. And she called her dad and said she was feeling whiplash. And I heard her say, "I'm with Tyler." And I heard very loudly from the end of her phone from her dad, "Who's Tyler?" And that's when I knew that was over right then and there.
Is that the night that Nathan and I were waiting on you in Waco?
Yeah.
So Ricky, Tyler calls me, but I can barely hear him. And what I thought he said was, "We're running late." I was like, "All right, cool." But what he had actually said was, "We had a wreck." And so I'm like, "Yeah, all right, cool." Hang up on him.
I was so mad. I'm like, wow, what a jerk.
Like 2 hours later, Nathan and I, where'd he go? Is he not coming tonight? I don't know. But anyway, so I want to jump into what you're doing now, because quick spoiler alert, Ricky and I met a few weeks ago, and he was telling me about this company he works for, and it's a really cool way that like the way they go about their business and the focus and everything. And so right then I was like, dude, you need to come on our podcast. So kind of tell us about what you're up to now, and I'll just hand off to you.
Yeah, thanks, Garrett. So kind of had an interesting career path thus far. So I'll start off there. I started off selling tractors at the local John Deere dealership for 8 years after I graduated from UMHB, which was great. I mean, that was my background, but It started off at the dealership as 5 stores and was 29 stores by the time I left 8 years later. And it had just gotten really big, and there's a lot of growing pains. And I realized that I was going to be in the same position with no real opportunity to move up. So right before COVID hit, I switched over into construction, which was weird. I just kind of fell into that job for a construction company down in Georgetown, and then COVID hit, and I was working from home, just about like everybody else, I guess, during COVID. But at that point, I realized that I was either going to have to really figure out what I wanted to do with the rest of my career, or just be content where I was at. Because once you get to a certain point, I feel like starting over in a new career, or a new field, that it's gets harder and harder as you get older. So hence the name of this podcast, Purple and Gold and Getting Gold. So figuring out those things as you grow up. But really during that time did a lot of reflecting and realized that my background in economics and finance was something that I wanted to really try to utilize. But I also really enjoyed doing more of the sales and building relationships with people. And I said, is there a way that I can do this? And the financial services industry kind of just popped out at me. And I reached out to a good friend of mine. His name's Keith Andel. Went to church with him growing up. And I said, hey, I know you're in this industry. How do I get into it? And that's when he said, I think if you're serious about this, you need to come join us at 49, or at least look into it. And that's where I'm at now. So the name of our company is 49 Financial. I am a financial planner with them. So different vision from typical financial service industry. So one thing we really pride ourselves on is hiring young advisors, specifically straight out of college. So even for them, I was not a typical new hire, or someone that they brought on board to partner with them. So was very fortunate. I didn't know at the time the guy that said, hey, I think you'd be a great fit. He was the SVP of finance. He's now our CFO at 49 Financial. So yeah, it's kind of hard to turn someone down whenever they're in that position. But I realized that our company is really built on a core set of values. And we believe that by sticking to those values, which is real similar to that of UMHB, and by sticking to these values, we're going to put an emphasis back on the client and really serve them at the highest capacity by always talking about these values and being top of mind, because we believe that any question or any problem or any situation that may arise, if we look back at our values, the answer is always going to be easy. So that's a little bit about 49 Financial. But I guess I'll take a moment there to pause and see if you had any other questions specifically around that.
I do. One thing you had mentioned to me was the name of the company and where that came from. I think it'd be a cool thing for this podcast.
Yeah. So one of the things that drew me to 49 Financial was our name. 49 comes from Ecclesiastes 4:9. Which states 2 are better than 1, for you get a better return for your labor. So one of our core values is teamwork, which is actually the corest of the core values, if you will. So we built this model that we're humble enough to know with our structure, because we are independent and holistic. So there's many different lines and many different ways that we can help people where they're at and help them to get to where they're going. And so we're humble enough to know that we don't know everything, but with our teamwork model, we can go and pull in an expert within our company and bring them in to serve anybody and everybody, depending on, if there's someone young starting off their career, making a good income, or if they're older and looking to retire, and what does that look like for me? So there's a lot of questions that we realize that if people in that stage of life, that we can really serve them well. So um, that's the whole idea around teamwork and just leaning on each other, as far as different expertise goes, but also too for accountability. We know that our industry sometimes gets a bad rap, and that's not always the case, but it is sometimes. People have a bad experience, but with our teamwork model, we get to hold each other accountable and say, "Hey, are we serving these people correctly, the best that we possibly can, or is there something we need to do to step up our game?" So um, that's really where the our title 49 financial came from. So kind of an interesting topic there.
I like that. And so where all is the company located? Because I know you had mentioned a few locations to me. I was trying to remember, outside of Texas, just in Texas,
Yeah.
kind of like what areas they'll service.
Yeah, so we are growing. We want to be a multifamily office, is what we are. And so, but we want to grow this thing to scale, because we believe that actually our mission statement is simplifying lives and creating community. So one way we're creating community is just like bringing different people, um, that have the same concerns, thoughts into one room. So right now we are in 8 different geographies. Currently, our headquarters are Austin. We do have Houston and Dallas in Texas, and then outside of Texas, we're in Northwest Arkansas, um, Atlanta, and then this year we just opened up Jacksonville, Charlotte, and Los Angeles. So
Wow.
we are going from sea to shining sea now, from the East Coast
Prestige
to the West.
worldwide. That's cool though. Coast to
Yeah.
coast.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's cool. We need somebody to finance this podcast. We last episode I like threw shade at a donut company and I'm like, just kidding, we need sponsors. And then my dad tells me the next day, no, actually that donut business closed down completely. I'm like, oh,
Oh
okay.
Well,
wow.
apparently it
Cool.
was justified.
A bit, yeah, I was kind of on a rant about it. Uh
So just to clarify, by the way, I'm extremely done with in numbers. Me get a little bit dizzy. Humanities major, forgive me. So is your company doing like personal finance for people? Is that what y'all are doing?
Yeah, so we
Okay.
help, like I said, with our independent model. We can really help out many people in many different areas. Yeah, so we're looking at individual families, but we can also help with business planning as well too. So um, yeah, we look at business planning. A lot of what we do is tax planning. And we can even look at estate tax planning if somebody is going to qualify for that as well too. So yeah, wide range of areas that we serve people and help people, and that's really um, why we want to emphasize the teamwork model is because someone that is young and building up a career and trying to be forward thinking and looking at retirement is going to have different issues than someone that is looking at, okay, I'm not going to spend all my money, how do I be a good steward for it? And even as far as giving plans too, that's one thing we're really passionate about, and it looks like we're probably about to get cut off.
yeah.
Um,
For a second I thought you meant the company. I didn't realize you meant Zoom. I was like,
I was
oh
like, oh no.
oh, sorry, it just
No.
popped up. It's like less than a minute. I
Yeah.
remember what you said. So, one thing we're passionate about that we probably don't talk about enough is helping people with their giving strategies, and redirecting tax dollars to be giving dollars. So there's strategic ways that you can do that. That is really cool that we help people out with that are very charitable minded. And so yeah, there's all different kinds of ways that people can be helped. And so not really limited to one specific area.
Like donating to Purple Gold and getting old.
Yeah. Get that
All right, I've
There
got
we
a question
go.
I'm going to jump in with.
Okay, cool.
So when you meet with people, is there a big kind of misconceptions or things that you see people coming in with kind of maybe incorrect mindsets or misconceptions that they have that you're having to constantly correct that people should know about?
Yeah, probably the biggest thing is um that I see is people often confuse us with wealth managers or just insurance salesmen, or that we're just trying to sell something. Um, and it's really interesting the way our business model is, because we do have access to pretty much anything that's in the financial services marketplace, since we are an independent company. So what we get to be is more of consultants, and what we want to do is build out a plan. Like, how do we plan for things in our life? How do we plan for different markets? How do we plan for the market cycles? Um, how do we plan for our kids' colleges, as well as planning for retirement? How do we be good stewards of our donation dollars at the same time? So really, we look to be more of consultants, and we want to build out a plan for someone, and walk alongside them, and really build up relationships and harness those relationships. We don't want to just come in and push a product, because you know access to a lot of different products out there. Um, People are going to need different things depending on where they're at in their life and what their life looks like. So I think that's the biggest misconception that I see from people, is just like, okay, well, what are you trying to sell me? And or, oh, you're just a money manager. And although that's part of what we do. Really, what we are is, we want to just come in and help people out where we can, and guide them the best way possible.
Ooh, awesome. So I'll put a link to your company in the post when we put this out. But just to put it here, where can people look up 49 Financial?
Yeah, so it's going to be pretty simple. 49financial.com. Just the numbers 49 financial.com is where you can go and find our website. So and see everything you need to know about that.
Cool. All right, I have a really random question. It's random because it bounces back to UMHB. But so I knew you when we were at school, and I had met your wife when we were in school. So I want to know, did y'all meet at UMHB, or did y'all already know each other?
No, we met at UMHB.
Cool.
You want to hear the story to that one?
Go for it.
So it was actually, we were supposed to go dancing, and we were over at volleyball player's apartment, where we all met and agreed to meet, a group of us, and then we were going to go up to Wild West in Waco. And so one of our friends was really taking forever to get ready to go, and finally it was like 11 o'clock or 10. It was at like 10 or 11 o'clock. I guess, yeah, it was probably 10 o'clock, which isn't that late for college. No, it was like 11 o'clock. That's right. Yeah. And they were like, all right, we're ready to go. And we're like, it's 11 o'clock. I know we're in college, but it's a 30-40 minute drive up to Wild West in Waco. So it was going to be midnight by the time we got there. And then it was kind of cold and rainy. I think it was shortly after the Christmas break we got back.
Tyler's probably on the side of the road.
Tyler's on the side road, hit a pothole, just lost his chance with the girl he was starting to talk to. So, the typical. No, but so a lot of us looked at each other and like, yeah, we're not going anymore. Like, this is too late. And she was one of them. that was like, no, we're not going to go anymore. So a few of them still went, and we're like, all right, well, I guess we're just going to go home. And a group of us looked at each other and said, hey, let's do something. It was my roommate's birthday at the time, and we're like, we need to go celebrate. And so we just went over to Applebee's in Temple, and I think it was 4 of us that went, and she was one of them. And then after that, it kind of just, the rest is history, as they say.
That's one thing I loved about college, just the randomness of like, it's like, hey, it's 3 a.m, but who wants to go to Whataburger? It's like, let's do it. Now
As you were telling that story, it's funny you say Whataburger. As you telling that story, like, we just decided, I was thinking, Whataburger?
I'm just thinking, I'm like, now it's like, I have to plan 2 days ahead to just
I know.
go somewhere.
I know what you mean. But yeah, I know. Very fortunate to have met her on that night. My pickup line too, I still remember it. She was wearing this camo jacket. I think it was her dad's jacket, so it was an oversized jacket, and she was kind of standing off in the corner by herself. And I kind of found myself standing next to her, and everybody was talking, and she wasn't really saying much. And I just looked over to her and was like, "You talk too much." And she literally like looked behind her, which there was no one behind her. It was a wall behind her. Like, oh, who, me? And I'm like, no, the person standing behind you. Yes, you. And so then she started talking, and really just hit it off. And yeah, very fortunate, very blessed. She's wonderful, great person, but she does take a little while to open up to people. We were talking about that the other day, but
Garrett's wife talks too much too.
I was about to say, I've always said that we need to have a podcast where Tyler and I are not here, but our wives have to do the podcast, because
it would be a lot of talking.
It'd be hilarious.
A lot of silence.
Yeah.
Well, like they get along, like they would talk to each other, but just it'd be funny to watch an interview and tell them they have to do it about sports.
Oh man,
that wouldn't go anywhere. My wife could talk about Roger Federer, but that'd be about it.
Oh man,
that's awesome. Well, Ricky, I'm glad we got to make this happen. I know it's been, like I said, like a month or two. I was like, let's make it happen. It took some time before we could schedule it, but man, my favorite thing about this podcast is catching up with people. And so like I'm glad you and I have gotten to reconnect, and that we're both living here locally, and got to introduce you to Tyler. So
yeah. Sure. So Tyler, you live down in New Braunfels?
Yeah. I grew up in Canyon Lake, just outside of here, and
okay.
And I went up to UMHB. I stayed up in the Central Texas area for probably about 10 years. And then probably 2019, I jumped at the chance to move back home, and it's been fun being back home. Belton became a second hometown to me for sure. But yeah, it's fun being back home.
That's cool.
Yeah. This is my 3rd time to live here, I think. So
yeah.
And the first 2 times when I left, I'm like, I'm not coming back. That chapter's closed. It's done.
Yeah, you wrote a whole song about it.
Yeah, I've got a song on Spotify about how I'm never moving back, but here we are.
Oh man, I'm gonna have to check that one out.
Shout out Bell County Breakdown.
Bell County Breakdown.
Fun fact, that might be the next music video. So anyway. All right. Well, Ricky, thanks for doing this, man. I'm gonna try to have this podcast up in the next couple days, but yeah, it's good talking to you, and we'll see you soon.
Sounds good, man. I appreciate you being here. Appreciate y'all inviting me on. So I really enjoyed it. Hopefully y'all keep it going.
Yeah, for sure. I hope we do too. Yeah. We did. 49 Financial and Ricky Brenek. So if you need somebody to help you with your financial advice and retirement plans, Ricky's the guy. If you need to sponsor a podcast with your money, we're the guys. Purple Gold and Getting Old.
I am not a financial expert. My financial advice is don't pay for an education at Hardin Simmons, because that might not be worth much before long. It might not be worth much now. So
Hardin Simmons should call Ricky for financial advice.
Yeah, Hardin Simmons really should.
Because on that note, it is 9:18 and HSU
still sucks.